Chloe. This time, it's the Fisherman murder case, a story I heard from Korea. It's about a chilling serial killer hiding behind the smile of a kind old grandpa. The story begins in August 2007 at a beautiful port on the south coast of Korea. A young college couple, aliases, was there, enjoying their summer vacation. But 2 days later, their parents reported them missing. When the police traced their phones, the last signal came from the middle of the ocean. It was weird. Right before they disappeared, the girl had called 911 4 times. The calls were mostly static, like the sound of a boat engine, and cut off without a word. A few days later, the girl's body washed ashore. There were almost no external injuries, so it looked like a simple, tragic accident. But the boy's body, which was found 2 days after that, was horrific. His bones were broken, and his flesh was torn by something sharp. It was a clear sign of a homicide. The police were sure the couple had been on a boat and that something terrible had happened there. But there were over 300 registered boats in that port alone. They couldn't identify a suspect. A month passed. Then another disappearance. 2 young women vanished from the same port, but this time there was a crucial witness. On the day of the disappearance, a tourist had briefly borrowed the phone from one of the women. The next day, that tourist received a text message from a number she didn't recognize. It was the last message from one of the victims. "Hi, we're the ones who lent you the phone earlier. I think we're trapped on a boat. Please call the Coast Guard." The couple who received the text was horrified and called the police immediately. They also gave one more vital piece of testimony. Those 2 women said they were going to get a ride on a small old boat. They said a kind old fisherman offered to take them for free. A small boat, an old man. The list of suspects narrowed dramatically. During that holiday period, most fishermen hadn't gone out to sea, but there was one record of a tiny boat leaving the port. It belonged to a fisherman in his 70s, Oh Jang-gun, an alias. When the police searched his boat, the horrifying evidence spilled out. The credit card of the first victim, a hair tie and strands of hair from the women in the second case. He was arrested immediately, but stubbornly denied everything. The first case in particular lacked direct evidence that the couple had ever been on his boat. Just when it seemed the first case might go unproven, a miracle happened. 2 months after the incident, a fisherman discovered a silver digital camera in the mudflats. It belonged to the first couple. The police restored the memory card, and on it were the final photos that would unmask the devil. The photos showed the happy couple enjoying their trip, the kind face of Oh Jang-gun smiling as he offered them a ride. And the last picture was of them getting onto his boat. In a tense, hushed voice, transitioning into the main scene. "Chloe, now I'm going to tell you what the camera couldn't capture. The horrific moments that must have happened on that boat." The sun was setting. The sea was bathed in gold, and the air was peaceful. The couple was on the deck, laughing and taking pictures. Oh Jang-gun was smiling at them like a kind grandpa. He told them he knew a great spot for octopus and steered the boat further and further from the shore. Finally, they reached a point in the middle of the ocean with no other boats in sight. Suddenly, the boat's engine sputtered and died. An instant, perfect silence fell upon the sea. The boyfriend asked, "Grandpa, is something wrong with the boat?" And in that moment, Oh Jang-gun's smile vanished. His kind eyes turned cold and sticky like a snake, watching its prey. Without a word, he picked up a gaff, a long, thick pole with a sharp metal hook at the end. Then he spoke to the young man, in a low, raspy voice. "Look over there. There's a big octopus right below." The moment the young man leaned over the side to look, Oh Jang-gun shoved him with all his might. Splash! He fell into the cold sea. The girlfriend screamed. The boyfriend struggled in the water, trying to climb back onto the boat, but every time he reached for the edge, Oh Jang-gun viciously struck him with the gaff hook. The girlfriend, terrified, scrambled into the boat's tiny cabin. With trembling hands, she dialed 911, but just then, Oh Jang-gun restarted the engine, and its deafening roar drowned out her desperate whispers. All that could be heard on the sea was the man's agonizing screams and the sickening thud of the gaff striking the water. Finally, when the man's movement stopped, Oh Jang-gun cut the engine again. Silence returned, and then, with the wet gaff in his hand, he slowly turned his head towards the cabin where the girlfriend was hiding. In front of all the evidence, Oh Jang-gun finally confessed, but he was completely shameless. He blamed everything on the victims. "I was drunk. They were dressed provocatively. It's their fault for getting on a stranger's boat for free." He was sentenced to death, but Korea has a moratorium on executions. For 16 years, he never truly paid for his crimes. He got medical care when he was sick and 3 meals a day. And a little while ago, he died peacefully of old age in a prison hospital bed at 87. Can you call that justice, Chloe? The victims died in agony in that cold sea, but the devil who killed them got to die peacefully in a warm bed. It's just an infuriating and frustrating story, isn't it?